Crash. He may know this one because he's a wonderful historian.
Well, it'd make for a change. Good morning, Crasher.
How are you, Hills?
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
No, I don't. This is my mind's buzzing with this question, and it's a big one to get at 7 a.m., isn't it? When we're all searching for our first coffee.
Yeah, well,
Would it be a Bradman? It'd be a sticky wicket and someone making sort of 90 out of 130, would it? I don't know. It'd be a Bradman innings.
Yeah, well, the official question was, which Test match record set by Charles Bannerman in the very first Test match in 1877 still stands today?
I like where you're coming from there, Crasher, because he made 165.
Well,
I'll confirm that for you both. Bannerman did score 165.
Out of what was the total score?
He's not giving us much more than that, Crasher. Now, but he's also mentioned that Seymour Nurse is on this list. I don't know whether he meant to or not, but Seymour Nurse is a bowler, West Indian bowler.
Well, not on this particular day.
Oh, so it's about it. Yeah, I think you're right, Crasher. Are you happy for me to go with my instincts, which you gave me?
Yeah, that it's not.
Yeah, it's
highest percentage of runs in a particular innings. Yeah,
yes.
That's what I'll say.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going with that. Yes!
Oh. So, yes.
Yeah.
So, Bannerman, and look, official scorecards, I'm reading about it, they call it Bannerman's Miracle. Official scorecards don't exist, but they've combined reports from the Daily Telegraph, which was a Melbourne newspaper in those days, the Age and the Argus. So Bannerman scored 165 of Australia's first innings total of 245, which is 67.34%. Next after that is Slats, Michael Slater, with 66.84 v England in 99. Then you've got VVS Laxman. So Slats scored 123 of 184. VVS Laxman 157 of 261. So there's a lot of them in the 60s, which is quite a...
And Seymour Nurse, I had him wrong. He can't be a bowler unless he's a handy little thing. He's made 258 runs in one knock.
Yeah, no, he was... Seymour Nurse came from Barbados, and he was his all-time hero. He was Desmond Haynes' all-time hero was Seymour Nurse.
Okay.
Your old mate, Desi Haynes, Hills.
Yes.
And, he thought Seymour Nurse was just the greatest of all time. I'd say, as a boy, he just idolised him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk a little bit of stuff more recent. And, of course, we've got the Test match tomorrow, mate. I mean, you would be excited like the rest of us about this series.
It's been a long build-up, Paddy, and I think just you're seeing two older teams against each other. So some legends are going to be forced towards retirement, and others will enhance their legend. That's what I like about this. There's so much at stake. And I love a 5-test series too, because, you get rivalries build up that you can't get in the shorter series. So you'll get someone getting out someone 4 or 5 times, and then you'll see, it's great. But all the big names, they're all under pressure. Kohli's under pressure. Smith's under pressure. Rohit Sharma, who's not there tomorrow, the team will be captained by Jasprit Bumrah. So yeah, it's magnificent. I love just the next 7 weeks is just going to be magnificent.
All right, I'll let you and Heels discuss all sorts of tactics in a moment, but I just want one from the journo's point of view. We've heard from no one from the Indian camp. Now, you've travelled both to the subcontinent and with them in Australia. Is this unusual? Is it mind games? Is it them just being, I don't know, stubborn?
Negligent?
Yeah, well, what's the story? I mean, yesterday Morné Morkel finished up, going up in place of Ravi Ashwin.
I don't like it at all, and I think it's unacceptable. And it's India; they run to their own beat. But you think of that. Imagine the All Blacks being in town for a week and not having one press conference. It's totally unacceptable. But it is what they do and what they get away with. Some of the Indian journalists, such as Bharat Sundaresan, who's one of SEN's finest commentators, he's the best net watcher we've ever seen in cricket. He picks up little things. One of the reasons he's so good is because the Indian players speak so irregularly, you've actually got to get news stories from watching players and their habits and what happens at the nets. And so I can't believe they get away with it on one level. But it just shows you the power of this country, that 81 cents out of every dollar is raised in India, and their power grows by the year. They have the world under their thumb. That is what it is, you know.
Very interesting about those funds of India too in your paper today, Crasher, about the IPL paying a pittance to their players as a percentage of their revenues compared to the American sports, for example. So they don't have grassroots to look after, do they? And they're only paying the players 10% of the revenues.
Yeah, whereas in some of the American sports, it's up to 50. And that's the thing. We look at the IPL and say, fancy Mitchell Starc getting $4 million, for 2 months' work. But it's, as you say, 10% of the revenue is very, very small. And it shows you what a gargantuan beast the IPL is. You know, the world sort of runs around it, you know. India, the wealth is just staggering. It really is. And Hills, you've seen the change too in Indian cricket. Remember the years, I remember when Mohammad Azharuddin and players like that used to come here, and India was struggling in the 80s, and players were sort of underpaid and they were just getting there. Now, you know, and the strut has come, hasn't it? With money has come a strut and a swagger. And I remember in 2004, it's funny you have little benchmarks, but Jane, 2004 I went to lunch in Bangalore, and a guy walked in about 35, and you could just tell he was quite important. He had a couple of people with him, and he just happened to sit beside us. I said, "What do you do, mate? Who do you work for?" And he said, "Oh, Hotmail." And I said, "In what way?" He said, "I own the company. I invented it." You know, and you know, so he was a billionaire, but he was, you know, just a guy who, you know, that was a sign to me of just a changing world, the technological revolution. India staring the world in the eye.
The traditional boards of cricket will be a little scared with this sort of revelation that they might have to pay more money, the IPL, to its players, because they'll probably dictate a second window of IPL and more play to disrupt traditional cricket even more.
Oh, yeah. But you can tell it too, Heels, in the demeanour of players worldwide. As Pat Howard used to say probably a decade ago when he was the boss of Australian cricket, you know, sort of the running the game, I mean, not the CEO, but running the cricket department, he'd say, we don't own the players anymore. Like, Hills, when you played, you had no option, did you?
No.
You had to be, when they gave you a contract, you had to say, yes, that'll do. You couldn't protest it. You couldn't go offshore. You couldn't play for anyone else. You were owned by Australian cricket. Alan Border's last contract for Australia in 1994 was $90,000. That's all it was, you know, and so, but yeah, things that now players can, you know, Mitchell Starc would earn more for 2 months in the IPL than he does playing for Australia for a year. Yes,
and he's not underpaid for Australia either. Australia are keeping their wages up there. They're one of three nations who can do that. But, righto, the matchups in this test match, you know, anything got you really interested?
I just think I'm a massive admirer of Jasprit Bumrah. He's under huge pressure captaining this team and opening the bowling.
Yes.
But he versus McSweeney. Now, McSweeney's got one of the best forward defences in the game. He's a really beautiful defensive player in an old-fashioned way. You play with Jeff Marsh and David Boone and guys like that who could really keep a dangerous ball out, and so can he. But Bumrah is very good. He can swing the ball both ways. He's a great interrogator of batsmen. So I'm sort of looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward. I just feel Mitchell Starc, India have been his toughest opponent. His stats against India are his worst.
Righto.
And I just feel he's been building up to this series with good couple of terrorising performances in Shield cricket. Mm-hmm. And I reckon he'll just have something special in Perth. Starc v. the India, really livening up with short balls. I just think that'll happen.
I think it was well described in the paper today too, Paddy, about Bumrah's advantages and the gears he's got. He's got this hyperextended elbow and a very hypermobile wrist. And so he can hang on to the ball for longer and he can release the ball outside in front of his front foot, can't he? So he's getting an advantage there and whips it through, and he feels faster than you think it's going to be.
Oh, yeah. And that's beautifully described, Hills. And, you know, he when he first started, he's got such an unusual run-up in action that they refused to take him seriously for about 2 years. Just say, you can't have this guy play for. And you know, he could be one of the great, well, he is one of the great bowlers of all time.
Yep.
And, you know, and like a lot of them came from humble backgrounds. I mean, his run-up was a product of a very small backyard where he used to push off the fence. And his beautiful, beautiful Yorker was when his mum said, Jasper, will you keep the noise down, please? So he worked out if he hit the wall and the floor at the exact point where they join. You think of that, the little where the wall joins the floor. If he hit it perfectly, it minimised the noise. There was no double thump. So that's why he's got the best Yorker in cricket.
That's unreal.
Grant's just chimed in. When was the last time two fast bowlers captained their teams in Test cricket?
Well,
that's
is that our old mate Grant O'Hara? I wonder whether it is.
He's one contributor.
Yeah,
we've got about 3 Grants.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, there must be. It's a terrific point. I mean, you go back, that's a really good question. And it does show, talk about myths being exposed. And Hills, you lived this too, didn't you? Oh, you can't have a fast bowler captain of your country. No way. Oh, no, they're too heavily burdened. But guess what? Same as wicketkeepers, they used to say, and you were a victim of that. But fast bowlers understand bowlers, you know, and they understand when they need a break, and they can talk to them directly. Like Hazelwood can say, and Sark and Cummins grew up in the same city. They can say whatever they like to each other. Like, if the fast bowler doesn't get his field placings right, if the cover's not quite square, who cares? The bigger issue is managing the bowlers, and Cummins is all over that. So I think he's the calmest cricketer I've ever seen play for Australia. It just, nothing, you know, that calm vibe he's got, nothing sort of worries him. But it is a good question. Bob Willis, ooh, gee, we're going back, aren't we?
Yeah, Jack has dug up Courtney Walsh and Heath Streak captained against each other. But not as full-term and full-time as these two seem they're going to be. Of course, Pat Cummins has got the great ability on a hot afternoon to say, give me the ball, and lead from the front again, and he's been very good at that.
Hey, just quickly. Sorry, mate, you go.
Small observation on Pat Cummins, which came from the green room at Fox Sports the other night. I was talking to Moses Enriques and said, tell me something about Cummins I don't know, you know, as a bowler. And he said, well, here's one, all right? When you face him in the nets, it's just extraordinary how every single ball is just a bit different to the previous one. He said, I often think to myself, does this bloke ever bowl 2 balls in the same spot? He said, he said, it's subtle. You don't pick it up on the television, but it's there.
Hey, give us an idea of what it's like back on the subcontinent with a team that's been beaten 3-0, you know, in a series that they were expected to win. How much pressure do you think they are under, India?
Huge, but we're under more because they've won the trophy here the last 2 times, overachieved in Australia. And there's put it this way. When they last lost a series in India, it was 2012 to England, and social media wasn't the vicious beast it was. It is now. And they've copped it, and they're a bit rattled by it. But there's also that sense of escapism of getting over here. And my mate who is in Perth, Ben Horn, smiled the other night when we were on the phone at 9 a.m. and 3 different Indian players passed him in the street on e-scooters. And he said, mate, isn't it funny? Like that's the one thing they really do about enjoy about Australia is the freedom. And he said you could just tell by the look of on their faces that they're loving just being not recognised by people. So there is that, but I think that they did cop heaps for losing to New Zealand, no question. And the coach, Gautam Gambhir, prickly character, he copped most, and he's under huge pressure. And I'm yet to be convinced this team's as happy as under him as it was under the very popular Ravi Shastri.
And then on the other side of this extreme crash, it wouldn't surprise me if it's a total mismatch. Our fast bowlers just bore through their inexperienced batting lineup.
Yeah, and it looks like it with Gill out and Sharma out. You would and in Perth with the bounce, you'd tend to think that would happen. It's just we've got to. The reason we modify everything is the memory of the last time they were here, India being bowled out for 36 in Adelaide. The
Yes.
Adelaide 36, as we called them, and then recovering to win the series with backup players who, because they played IPL Hills, they've got no great fear of the big stars. Washington Sundar, remember he came in? Well, since the IPL started, all these Indian players, they're on the bus with Kane Williamson, they're on the bus with Pat Cummins, they're on the bus with Mitchell Starc, they're in the nets facing him. So they sort of think, I know Starc, I've faced him before. So there's not that class difference that there was 30 years ago.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, mate. We've kept you long enough, as usual. Brilliant. You'll be covering it for the Courier Mail right the way through this series, and I think you, like the rest of us, are just salivating at how this series is going to unfold. It'll be brilliant.
Thanks, Crash.
Yeah, can't wait. Thanks, guys. Pleasure.
Robert Craddock there from the Courier Mail, Queensland's #1 sports journo, and he will, as I said, be right across the series all the way through.